Hi everyone, once again welcome back to my channel. I hope you people are doing good. So in my previous video I have already explained the historical underpinnings part 1, and in this video I am going to continue with the same topic, and today I am going to explain the crown rule, that is crown rule from 1858 to 1947. So soon after the 1857 revolt, that is soon after the Sepoy Mutiny, the company's limitations in administration were exposed and the British Parliament ended the activities of East India Company. Thereby, the powers of Indian government, its revenue and everything were transferred to British Crown. That is, from 1858 onwards, the administration in India was under the control of British Crown, and during this administration the first act that was passed by the British was Government of India Act 1858. So this act was known as Act for Good Governance of India, and the features of this acts were the Governor General of India was designated to Viceroy of India, and this Viceroy of India was the direct representative of British Crown, and the first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. So soon after the Viceroy of India was appointed, it also ended the system of double government by abolishing Board of Control and Court of Directors. So this Board of Control and Court of Directors were created during Pitt's India Act, and these two were abolished, and the system of double government came to an end. And after that, they also created a office called Secretary of State for India, and this Secretary of State was a member of British Parliament. So in order to advise on some certain issues, or in order to get some advice, the Secretary of State had an advisory body of 15 members, and this advisory body was headed by the Secretary of State. That is, for this advisory body the chairman was Secretary of State, and he had the power to initiate and finalize the decisions that was going on. So after this, during this act, they also ended the doctrine of lapse that was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. So by seeing all this, after 1857 revolt, the British government wanted more cooperation from the Indians in terms of administration. So they decided to introduce council acts, and with a lot of development, the first council act was introduced, that is Indian Council Act of 1861 was introduced, and this act brought a new beginning by associating some of the Indians with lawmaking. And in the meanwhile, these Indians were appointed by Viceroy as representatives of non-official members in legislative bodies, and these Indian members were Raja of Benares, Maharaja of Patiala, Sir Dinkar Rao. So through this act, decentralization process started, that is decentralization of power started by restoring the legislative powers to the presidencies of Bombay and Madras. That is, in regulating Act of 1773, the governors of Bombay and Madras presidencies were made subordinate to Governor General of Bengal. So in that act, the powers of governors of Bombay and Madras were taken, and here in this act that powers were given back to Bombay and Madras presidencies, and thereby their legislative powers were restored. So after that, this act also established a new legislative councils for Bengal in 1862, in northwest frontier provinces in 1866, and in Punjab in 1897. So after this act also gave portfolio system, and it was introduced in 1859 by Lord Canning. So under this system, what happened was each member of Viceroy's Council was made in charge of one or more department of the government. So this portfolio system is still continued, and after this, uh, under this act only, Viceroy was given power to issue ordinances during emergency, and the life of this ordinance was 6 months. So soon after the Indian Councils Act of 1861, there was another Council Act which was known as Indian Council Act of 1892. So the features of this acts were, after the demands from the Congress, the non-official members in legislative councils were increased, and these non-official members were nominated by Viceroy on the recommendations of provincial legislative councils, that is for Central Legislative Council. And for provincial legislative councils, members were appointed by governors on the recommendations of district boards, municipalities, universities, jemindas, and chambers. So soon after this act also gave legislative councils more power of discussing budgets. That is, previously the power to discuss budgets was not there. So during with this act, the power to discuss budget was also given. And after that, this act also appointed some non-official members, and this appointment was done by a method of indirect election. um, After this, the third Council Act introduced was Indian Council Act of 1909, and this act is one of the historic acts passed by British Parliament because this was the first attempt made by British to bring representative governance in the country. So this act is also known as Morley-Minto reforms, where Lord Morley was the Secretary of State and Lord Minto was the Viceroy of India. So the features of this act were the strength of legislative councils increased, and also they increased the power and functions of legislative councils. And for the first time, it associated the Indians in executive councils of viceroy and governors. And in this process, Satyendra Prasad Sinha was appointed as the law member of Viceroy's Executive Council. And this act also introduced separate electorates for Muslims. Through this, the act brought legalized communalism, and Lord Minto became the father of communal electorate. So after this, they were given a separate representation for presidency, corporations, chambers of commerce, universities, and jemindas also. So after this Indian Council Act of 1909, in August 1917, the British government for the first time declared that the objective of British government was to introduce a responsible government in India. So for this, Government of India Act of 1919 was introduced, and this act is also called as Montego Chelmsford reforms, as Montego was the Secretary of State and Chelmsford was the Viceroy. So the features under this act were it introduced bicameralism and direct elections for the first time. And this bicameralism was introduced in Indian legislative councils, which contained upper house known as Council of State and lower house known as Legislative Assembly. And also the diarchy system was introduced in provinces, that is the provincial subjects which were given to provinces were divided into transport and reserve list, and these transport subjects were administered by the governor with the aid of ministers which were responsible to legislative councils, whereas reserve subjects were administered by the governor with executive council but without responsible to legislative council. That is, here the difference is transport subjects were responsible to legislative councils, whereas reserve subjects are not responsible to legislative council. And along with these things, this act extended the principle of communal representation by providing separate electorates for Sikhs, Indian Christian, Anglo Indians. And after that, this act for the first time separated provincial and central budget. So in before acts we have seen that budget was given, but here from here onwards there was a separate provincial and a central budget. And after this act also established a new office of High Commissioner for India, and it also appointed Central Public Service Commission for recruiting civil services, and this Central Public Service Commission was appointed in 1926. And along with these things, this act also granted franchise to limited number of people based on the qualifications of property, tax, or education. And this act also brought appointment of statutory commission after 10 years of this act coming into force. That is, the government thought that after implementing this act, after 10 years they wanted to appoint a statutory commission in order to examine the working of this act. So eventually they brought Salmon Commission in November 1927, and this Salmon Commission was led under the chairmanship of Sir John Simon. So this Simon Commission recommended to abolish diarchy. It said to continue the communal electorate, and it also said that there should be a federation, and it also asked to extend the responsible government. So all these recommendations of this commission were introduced in later acts, which was Government of India Act 1935. So this act was also one of the historic act passed by the British government, because this act was for total, that is this complete responsible government in India. So under this Government of India Act 1935, um, the British government provided establishment of All India Federation, which was recommended by Simon Commission, and this act divided the powers between center and units as federalist, provincialist, concurrentist, and residuary powers were given to Viceroy. And this act abolished diarchy in provinces, and it introduced provincial autonomy, that is, provinces got their power and authority directly from the British Crown, and they had their independent financial powers and resources. And after this, this act adopted diarchy at the center, and that is, the subjects in the center were divided into reserved and transfer list. So we have previously seen who controlled this reserved and transfer list. Here also same thing happened. And after that, this act introduced bicameralism in 6 provinces. Those provinces were Bengal, Bombay, Madras, Bihar, Assam, and United Provinces. And also, the principle of communal representation was extended to depressed classes, women, and labor. So this principle of communal representation was given in Government of India Act 1919, and here it has been extended. And after that, the Council of India, which was established in Government of India Act 1858, was abolished here, and the franchise that was given to the people based on the qualifications of uh, education, tax, and property under Government of India Act 1919 was extended, and this franchise was given to 10% of the population who had voting right. And after that, this act has brought Reserve Bank of India. It has also established Provincial Public Service Commission and a Joint Public Service Commission for the requirement of officers. And along with this act also brought one federal court. So soon after this, there was a transfer of power from Britain Crown to India, and this transfer of power was made by a plan known as Mountbatten Plan. So under the Indian Independence Act of 1947, India got independent, and India was made as a sovereign state on 15th August 1947. And under this act, India was divided into two dominions. One is India and the other one is Pakistan. And this act also abolished the office of Viceroy, and it provided Governor General for each one dominion. And this act also abolished the Secretary of State for India, and it also granted freedom to Indian princely state either to join India or Pakistan. And this act also empowered constituent assemblies for both the dominions. So in that way, after Indian Independence Act was implemented, and after India got independence, soon a constituent assembly was formed, and this constituent assembly worked for the formation of Constitution of India. So in the next video, we will learn about evolution of constitution, which will be a part of GS paper 2, the syllabus, that is Indian Constitution. So if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.